hoş geldiniz. Gecikme için kusura bakmayın. O yüzden ben moderatör olarak çok fazla bir giriş şeyi yapmayacağım. Dolayısıyla direkt konferansa, panele geçeceğiz. Bugünkü konumuz düşen uçak sonrasında Türk-Rus ilişkilerinin nasıl bundan sonra dönüşeceği, seyredeceği ve özellikle de bu meselenin Suriye krizinde, Suriye meselesinde nasıl bir dönüştürücü etki ortaya çıkaracağını konuşacağız. 3 tane değerli konuğumuz var. Birinci konuğumuz Koç Üniversitesi'nden doçent doktor Şener Aktürk. İkinci konuğumuz Halit Hoca, Suriye Ulusal Koalisyonu Başkanı, Konseyi Başkanı ve üçüncü konuşmacımız da Ufuk Ulutaş, SETA Dış Politika Direktörü. Ben ilk sözü Şener Aktürk hocamıza vermek istiyorum. Hocam buyurun.
Çok teşekkür ederim. Bu süre içerisinde ben Murat hocamızın da bahsettiği üzere özellikle Rus Grand stratejisi açısından ve tabii ki Türk-Rus ilişkilerinin izlediği seyir açısından bu olayın, uçak düşürülmesi olayının etkilerine ve arka planına bakmak istiyorum. Çok kısaca değineceğim birer ikişer cümleyle hepsini. Daha sonra soru cevapta açabiliriz. 8 nokta var. Birincisi şunu tespit etmek gerekir ki Türk-Rus ilişkileri 2000'li yılların içerisinde bir dip noktası yaptı bu uçak düşürme olayıyla birlikte. Fakat yine de eğer uzun vadeli olarak bakacak olursak 1990'lara bile dönülmüş değil. Soğuk Savaş dönemine ve ondan önceki 300 yıllık yoğun çatışma dönemine ise kesinlikle dönmüş değiliz. Yani önce onu tespit etmek gerekiyor. Evet, 2000'li yıllar Türk-Rus ilişkileri için 1921-36 bu erken Cumhuriyet dönemini istisna edersek herhalde son 300 yılın en iyi dönemiydi. En yoğun işbirliğinin yaşandığı, ticaret olsun, nükleer santral olsun, diğer konularda turizm, boru hattı vesaire. Gerçekten çok istisnai bir dönem. Tek benzer dönemini dediğim gibi 1921-1936 arasındaki 15 yıllık Türk-Sovyet ittifakı dönemi olarak görebiliyorum. Ondan önce 300 yıl iki ülke arch enemy İngilizce tabiriyle bir numaralı düşman, özellikle Türkiye açısından. Dolayısıyla istisnai bir dostluk ve işbirliği döneminin içinde Türk-Rus ilişkileri dip yapmış oldu bu olayla birlikte. Neden halen 90'lara dönülmediği ile ilgili bir iki şey söyleyebilirim ama onu dördüncü noktaya bırakayım. 90'larda sağlanan mutabakat çünkü her iki ülkenin birbirinin toprak bütünlüğüne saygı göstermesi üzerine bir mutabakattı. O mutabakattan halen geri adım atılmadığını düşünmek istiyorum. Ama onunla ilgili bu sabah bir haber vardı. Onu da birazdan değineceğim. Eğer o noktaya geri dönersek, yani Türkiye ve Rusya Federasyonu birbirinin toprak bütünlüğüne bile saygı duymadıkları bir noktaya gerilerlersek, ki 90'lar bir ölçüde budur ve tabii ki ondan önceki 300 yılda biliyorsunuz Sovyetler Birliği ve Rus Çarlığı Türkiye'deki Osmanlı İmparatorluğu'ndaki ve daha sonra Türkiye'deki neredeyse bütün etnik ayrılıkçılık hareketlerini doğrudan ve yoğun bir şekilde desteklemiştir yani. Hiçbir Balkan devleti yok ki Rus ordusu gelmeseydi bağımsızlığını kazanabilmiş olsun. Dolayısıyla hani o dönemde değiliz daha. O kadar kötü değil durum ama oldukça kötü. En azından son 15 yılın en kötü dönemi. İkinci ve en önemli nokta, belki biraz 3 dakikamı daha genel bir noktada harcamış oldum ama Rusya açısından Suriye'deki çatışmanın Batı'yla veya kendi açısından Rus karşıtı cephe ile mücadelesinde asıl cephe olduğunu düşünmüyorum. Yani Rusya açısından bakıldığında asıl cephe elbette ki Ukrayna'dır. Rusya'nın uluslararası sistemden haklı olarak şu anda tecrit edilmiş olmasının, ambargo altında yaşıyor olmasının sebebi Ukrayna'nın çok önemli bir bölgesi olan Kırım'ı işgal ve ilhak etmiş olması. Yani İkinci Dünya Savaşı'ndan itibaren ilk defa Avrupa'da işgal ve ilhak ile sınırlar değişti ve bunu yapan Rusya Federasyonu. Ve bu birkaç yılda değil, 10 yıllarca sürecek bir problem. Yine teşbihte hata almaz. Nasıl ki 6 gün savaşında İsrail Doğu Kudüs ve Batı Şeria'yı işgal etti ve 58 yıl mı oldu? bu sorun hala aşılamadı. Muhtemelen bir 58 yılda Rusya'nın Kırım'ı bütün uluslararası normları çiğneyerek işgal ve ilhak etmesinin yarattığı meşruiyet sorunuyla Rusya Federasyonu yaşamak zorunda olacak. Ve Donetsk ve Luhansk'ta desteklediği isyancılar aracılığıyla kurdurduğu iki halk cumhuriyeti ve Ukrayna'nın halen devam eden Donetsk ve Luhansk.
Ukraine is still experiencing these problems, and there's a civil war in Ukraine, and this is the main front for Russia. The grand strategy is actually for the Ukraine. This is also the case when we look at the history and the strategic situations. But you know, Russia has increased their presence in Syria region, and they now have bargaining power between these fronts. I skipped one thing here. There is another conflict area about Georgia. Georgia is favoring Western countries. There is a leader there, and you know, there was an election, and there was some problems about this issue. The leader of Georgia, and starting from 2014, Ukraine is the most important front for Russia. You know that during Cold Era there was a Brezhnev doctrine. If there is a country in which a socialist regime is under threat, Soviet army had the direct right to direct intervention. Czechoslovakia was the case, for example. They asked help from Moscow, and Soviet army entered Afghanistan, and this is actually how we started a war in this region. So, but we don't have communism anymore, but we have modified Brezhnev doctrine still in force. Yes, Mozambique, Angola, Ethiopia, and in other regions, or in Cuba, this doctrine is not applied. But in near abroad region for Russia, this is still implemented. The regime around Russia are important. Bandit regime doesn't want to be in this circle anymore. Russia always intervenes. Tajikistan civil war started this way. Armenia and Azerbaijan war started in this way. This is how they punished Azerbaijan, because Azerbaijan would like to go away from Russia. Ukraine is another example. Georgia, Abkhazia, Ossetia, occupations. And Tiflis is bombed. These are all related to this doctrine. They punished the Saakashvili government, but in the Syria example, there is something more, because this is beyond the old Soviet republics. Syria is not Georgia or Ukraine or Tajikistan. Syria is right in the middle of the Middle East. We are near neighbors for many years. So we can see that this doctrine has expanded its impact area. Fourth point, and I can say that Russia was successful in these efforts. Yeah, for example, the problems about the Georgia and Ukraine had successful results. For example, Russia prevented Georgia and Ukraine to be a NATO member. So when we think about them, we can understand that Russia was successful in these efforts and these endeavors. I'm not a Syria expert. I don't want to say too much about Syria situation. But I think that the aims of Russia in Syria is quite limited. I don't think that the Assad regime should be dominating all the activities in Syria. I don't think this is what Russia is wanting. They just want to keep it under control. They just want to secure the situation. Fifth point is that maybe I'm just talking about these points, and if you ask any questions about these 8 points, I will answer. I'm just skipping these parts in a real fast way. We talked about the grand strategy all the time, but there is also a dimension, one dimension about internal policy. Syria is the second or third front. It is quite marginal for Russia. I already said that Ukraine, Georgia are really important for Russia, but it is not exactly the case. On main terms, it is of course the case. It is of course true. But Syria is also really important. Middle East, Islamic world, these are really important. If there is a problem because of these problems, if there's a problem in the Caucasus because of these problems in the Middle East, this will be a threat for Russia. So they're all interrelated. And Putin became the leader in Russia. He said that, I think it was in 1999 and 2000. My main historical mission is to solve the Caucasus problem. You know, at that time, Chechnya was dependent, and the Second Chechnya War starts, and then you know about the results of these wars, etc., etc. And there were some problems about other northern countries, other northern Caucasian countries, etc. When we think about Russia's activity, we can understand that this northern Caucasus is affecting the decisions. In most of the movements of Russia, we see that this is visible. For example, Russia became an observer member for the Islamic Cooperation Organization. This is like a PR activity for Muslim countries. I believe that they are trying to have and keep an eye on Muslim countries, and they're always thinking about the Caucasian problem when they're doing this. They tried and they become an observer member in the Islamic Cooperation Organization. And I think they don't want to be the #1 target for the terrorist organizations. And they would like to keep a nice image in the Middle Eastern countries and Islamic countries, Muslim countries. So this is actually a really hard thing to do, but this is the case. Let's continue with the 7th topic. Let's get back to the Turkish and Russian relations, because I would like to wrap up. Turkey and Russia, maybe you have heard, maybe you've seen this in the news. I don't know whether it is confirmed or not, but Russian army helped PYD in terms of weapons. I saw this in mainstream newspapers. This may mean that we are going back to the 1990s in our relations with Russia. Soviet Union and post-Soviet Russia was supporting PKK, but in 1999 Öcalan taken out of Syria and went to Russia, Moscow, and seek asylum. But the elite, Russian elite, the executives, prevented this and sent Öcalan back. So this was an historical message in 1999. This meant that we are respecting the territorial integration of Turkey. We will not be supporting any terrorist organizations which are acting against Turkey. This was a really important message, and in 1999, this was actually a closed understanding. And in 2000s, we always saw the effects of this historical message in 1999. But now the situation is different. If Russia is providing support, weapon support or arms support for PYD, this means we are going back to the situation in 1990s, and this also means that the relations between Turkey and Russia is going worse and worse. I think that this will not be the case. I am optimistic about this.
Doğrudan Türkiye'nin birliğine ve varlığına bir tehdit algısı olduğu herhalde burada ben olgunlukla analiz yapıyorum.
If there is a threat against the integrity of Turkey,
Bu tarz icraatların doğrudan Türkiye'nin birliğine ve varlığına bir tehdit algısı.
this kind of activities can be understood as a threat for the integrity of Turkey, and we need to make sure that Russia understands these concerns of Turkey, because I think this is something Russia can understand because of their own internal situations, internal problems and experiences. There are some metaphors used in media. Turkey downed a Russian plane. Yes, a NATO country has just downed a plane, and this is not that is not something we see all the time. But in Pakistan, we had this kind of problems about the violation of the planes in Pakistan airspace. But this, when we think about the situation, it is really hard to tell this without giving a name of a country. Let's say that there is a civil war in one of the old Soviet republics, and let's say that it is in the Baltic region, and the dictator is requesting help from Turkey, and Turkey is providing help. And the Turkish planes are violating Turkish airspace for months over and over again. So this should not be evaluated as an act of war. Turkey did not understood this. In this way, we are trying to de-escalate the crisis. I believe that the foundation of the Turkish-Russian relations is sturdy, so I hope that there will be a reconciliation. This is the end of all the topics. The basic point is the foundation, a strong foundation regarding the relations between Russia and Turkey. When we compare the situation with the previous years, there is not a threat for the integrity of territorial integrity of Turkey. Russia is not a direct threat. Of course, Georgia is really important for us for 300 years. Turkey and Russia does not have common boundaries, common territories, common boundaries. So this is a vital issue for the Turkey and Russia relations. In 2008, Tiflis bombing, this was also quite risky, but I think it is a delayed crisis right now. I think I have time. The EU strategy of Russia is also important. In Ukraine and in Georgia examples, we also saw this explicitly. In between the Atlantic Alliance members, there are differences of understanding, and there are different reactions. We can understand that there were different reactions and understandings regarding the acts of Russia. And actually, Russia is maybe trying to divide and conquer the Atlantic Alliance. About Ukraine and Georgia, there were differences of understandings and opinions, but the Western world was not able to do anything about this. In Crimea occupation, we didn't have any concrete action or intervention. In Ukraine, a pro-Western government came to power, but there were many problems for the country, but there was not any reaction from a concrete reaction from the EU. This is also the case for Georgia and Syria, and there were different opinions, and we know that what countries think in this in which way. Germany, for example,
İngiltere'nin, Amerika'nın
has different position, has a different opinion about Ukraine or Turkey or Syria, and UK has different opinions about this, and Turkey and France has different opinions. The United States, I suspect that United States has also a different Syria position. So the Russian policy makers are aware of these differences, and they are making sure that these differences get deeper and deeper, and this is actually divide and conquer strategy. Some of the founding members of the Atlantic Alliance is now separated from the other members. They are really successful about this. In all these three crises, we have seen this. Those pro-Western elements were not successful because of the interventions from Russia. And Russia found his own clients and saved them. Ukraine is the part where the conflict is still ongoing, because the government is not still pro-Russia. But what happened as a result? One of the most important peninsula of the country is now gone, and Donetsk and Luhansk basin is out of control right now. There's turmoil, and Ukraine is in a civil war in which more than 1,000 people are being killed annually. And finally, I would like to say that we can talk about other things, but maybe we can think about talking about them during the question-answer part. Thank you. Thank you very much for your presentation. Now we would like to continue with the other speakers. You know, Russia is involved in Syria crisis, but you know, the downing of the plane has changed the road, and we will hear the opinions of Halit Hoca about this issue. Thank you very much. The involvement of Russia in Syria, of course, had some reasons, and I would like to summarize them. I can talk about two main reasons there. First of all, after 4.5 years of struggle, Russia understood that the regime will collapse. And the second reason was about the United States, US, left the Syria alone. There were some hesitant policies from the United States, so this was another reason for Russia to step in. And actually, the real reason is not the fight against terrorism, because for 4.5 years, this was not the case. No one tried to solve the problem about ISIS, and in the coalition powers, we didn't see any intervention from Russia. Of course, there are some reasons for this. If necessary, we can talk about this when there are some questions about this issue. When the activities started in Syria, Russia actually intervened from a certain distance. But then Iran was another issue, and Russia started to provide weaponry to Assad regime. This was a very serious support, And there was some innovation support for the air forces, for the devices, for the weaponries which are being used by the Assad regime. Qasem Soleimani, in the beginning of the August, is a really important actor. Qasem Soleimani has directed, managed very serious wars, and he has very important experiences. Qasem Soleimani, in the beginning of August, visited Moscow, and then in the beginning of September, they repeat this visit, and they say that Syria regime is about to collapse. This is underlined in both these visits, and this was like an invitation for Russia to have a direct intervention. Russia left the platform, left the stage to Iran up until that time, but now the situation was different, was about to get different. The number of people is also important. The Iran was involved in this in Syria, you know, together with the paramilitary groups, and there are some paramilitary groups established by the Syria regime too. Iranian started to manage the stage, but Qasem Soleimani understood that this will not be working in the future, and he wanted some support from Russia. When the intervention decision was taken by Putin, actually there was some certain results. There was they intervened in Syria by thinking that they will have some aerial support. They will provide some aerial support to the Syrian regime. Once this intervention is approved by Duma, Putin activated the air force, and 1 week after that they realized that the Syrian regime does not have any territorial force or land forces. It is already collapsed. The land forces were already collapsed. So in just 1 week, it started in Hama, you know, and at Homs. The bombing started in Homs by the Russian aircrafts. In the first 3 days, Syrian regime sent only a troop of 500 soldiers. And they were trying to take back the parts which are occupied. And the Iranians sent a 500 soldier troop, and they tried to control the region with 1,000 soldiers. So Russia realized that, and 2 days later, they tried to. They have seen that this was not a successful intervention, and Russia regime understood that this air force will not be enough by itself. And I think that Putin understood that this strategy is wrong. It is based on wrong calculations, at least. This intervention from Russia actually was actually really important, because the Iranian were not quite active in the region, as in the southern, or especially in the southern and northern parts. And they understood that they were not able to take back the places which was in the Free Syrian army. And Jurin region was also under threat because the army was going towards there. Jurin region is really important and it is quite strategic. Jurin region is opening to the coasts, and the next step is the coastal area, was this coastal area, and at that time there was an intervention from Russia. After Homs and Hama, Jurin region was under threat, and the bombings were carried out in this region, Jurin region too. They used a few missiles to the regions where ISIS is dominating, but we didn't hear any serious casualty because of these bombardments. In most of the cases, the casualties were from among the civilians. In about 2 months, about 600 people lost their lives because of the Russian intervention. As an effect of this Russian intervention, we also know that 2,000 people lost their lives. On Halep, they used barrel bombs. They used phosphorus bombs. In Halep, the number is like this, and they also carried out other bombardments in the other parts. So the geographical region is really important for the bombardments. When we look at these bombings locations, Damascus and Laskiye region is bombed. It is quite understood that they are trying to prevent the Assad regime. They are trying to make it easier to survive for the Assad regime. This is actually supporting the Nusayri state thesis on the mind of Assad. But Halep, on the southern parts of Halep and Darai is also targeted nowadays. The second reason I can say that there is, in 2013, on the 20th of August, there was a chemical attack by Assad regime. And as you can remember, Russians were the mediators there. There was an alliance, there was a political solution process to be started, but at that point there was a total understanding between Russia and the United States. Since then, Russia thinks that United States will turn a blind eye on to the Russian intervention. Maybe they made this intervention because they think that there will not be a severe reaction from United States. After the chemical attack situation, the Geneva understanding was also important, and in Vienna this is also the case. They are thinking about the political solution right now. There is a certain serious understanding between Russia and the United States about a Syria which is going to be founded. They discussed that the new Syria will be secular and the minorities will have some decision-making powers. There's an understanding between Russia and the United States about these aspects, but this is still the case after the occupation by Russia. There are and on the land attacks together with Iran and on the air attacks, they selected some regions. Actually, these locations are very close to the safe zone, which Turkey would like to establish. Iranians is occupied the southern part of Halep, and together with the Iranian, the Free Syria Army and Al Nusra Front is now joining them, and this is a triple war actually. The southern part of Halep is under siege by the regime and Iranian. The northern part of Halep is under siege by ISIS. And in the central part, PYD powers are visible. So there is a siege by three different forces. But on one hand, there is regime and Iranians, and ISIS on the other hand, and in the center, PYD. So this is the situation for Halep province. Of course, Russia provided help for Iranians in Halep. If the Free Syria Army will not have support, will not receive any support, I think this secure zone, the safe zone project will be hindered. If the situation goes on like this, what happens? Unfortunately, we are talking about this for 4.5 years. The Free Syria Army is the least supported party there. There are some paramilitary powers like Hezbollah and other groups coming from Iraq. They are being supported, largely supported, and they are very strong right now with the intervention of Russia. They didn't touch ISIS. They are still keeping their presence in Syria, in Raqqa part, and they are selling petroleum, selling oil, and they are collecting a certain amount of income. Regime is in a better position right now because there was a help from Russia. ISIS and Al-Qaeda groups are important. If they're able to stay in this war and if they can continue their presence, more jihadi groups will come to Syria, and these moderate groups like Free Syria Army will get out there, and the war will continue between these other groups and the jihadist groups. So this reminds us the Afghanistan scenario. The Damascus region is quite near to the strategic parts. The Arab Spring is also important as a mechanism. There is a pressure in different countries and the other countries. For example, in Afghanistan scenario, we experience these things, and I believe that for many years we will experience such war situations. How can we solve this problem? Of course, there is also another threat. This is not just about terrorism. The migration is also another issue. Migration is increasing because of the Russian intervention, and migrants are gathering there right next to the boundary of Turkey, and the possibility of terrorist activities is also on the increase. The only solution for this is to create safe zones in Halep, in Idlib, and in every place where the civilians are resident, we can create safe zones. How can we do this? The Free Syria Army has the possibilities for this. We know that more than 70,000 people are a member of this army, but they don't have they have some problems. Of course, they have some possibilities, but there are some problems too. for them to establish such safe zones. They don't have the chance to protect the civilians from aerial attacks. When civilians are protected, the migration waves will be decreased, and people can go back to their own countries, and we don't have any problem, any threat about extremism, because Free Syria army is not just controlling the regions, it is also protecting the local councils, civilian councils. These local councils are actually a civilian administration, and if they're able to strengthen the civilian administration, they can protect the region and they can protect them from the barrel bombs. If we are able to do this, if we're able to protect the civilians, we will change the balance there. We will change the situation there as a result of this, and maybe we can think about political transformation or political transition scenarios. We can have some protected areas, and if we are able to implement these political decisions in these protected areas, we can have an easier transition period. But if we are not able to do this, this will be very problematic, because under the barrel bomb attacks, under the threat from the terrorist organizations, we cannot talk about Geneva 3 or the continuation of Vienna. We have problems right now in the region, but we cannot continue like this. The occupation forces should get out of the region. We should create the safe zones. We should protect the civilians. Only if we do this, we can talk about the political solution or political transition processes. Unfortunately, the presence of Russia is problematic. The situation is not quite brilliant. I don't know how long this war will continue. In 1990s, there was a psychology experience by Saddam Hussein after he entered into Kuwait. Maybe this is the thing experienced by Putin too. Saddam Hussein had a rationale behind this. He used his armed forces because there was a collapse in the economy, and we know that the economy in Russia is not quite brilliant. So Saddam used his armed forces, and Putin is doing the same thing. And unfortunately, this psychology is creating a chaotic situation for the region. This is all from my side. If there are any questions, we can continue talking. Now we would like to continue with Ufuk Ulutaş. He will be giving information about the possible roadmap for Turkey as a result of these activities. We are experiencing a different process, and what would be the repercussions of these activities in Turkey. I was thinking about talking something else. Of course, I will be trying to tell you about the Turkish perspective, and as you can realize, after this crisis, plane crisis, this we can talk about different dimensions. We cannot just talk about Turkey and Russia. This affected many other things other than the relation between Turkey and Russia. Right now we gathered here in this room, and this is because there was a downing of a plane. Actually, this is a really simple thing. There is a violation, and this is a legal reaction. There's a legal reaction for Turkey, and Turkey downs the plane. And after that, Russia has some macho approach, and it starts some sanctions and uses some devices, propaganda devices, and they are trying to take revenge, I think. But the issue, the event is simple, but its background is problematic. We should think about its background. Actually, the plane is an excuse. The downing of the plane is excuse in my opinion, because this is a non-proportional reaction. These explanations are unproportional, and I can say that Turkey has a reconciliative approach, but we didn't see any common ground from Russia. As I mentioned, however, we hear the explanations by Russia. We see decisions taken about sanctions. I'm trying to understand why is that? As I mentioned before, when you're on a highway with a radar, if you exceed the speed limit, you will have a fine. We have higher technologies. Maybe the police can stop you, or maybe your a fine can be sent to you to your home. So this is like that. The downing of the plane is like that. Let's think about Turkey's side. We know that there is a past to this downing of the plane issue. There is a violation of airspace problem, and Russia has a non-serious reaction to this. About 1 month ago, I attended a meeting. Mihail Bogdanov was there. He said that this can be something like this all the time. Turkey should tolerate these violations. I saw that they have such an approach, and the Russian officials already told this over and over. They said that this can happen all the time, and in the downing of the plane, we also see that there have been 10 warnings for the plane, but they did not leave the Turkey territories. There was a lockdown situation previously, for example. This is a substantial violation. This is like downing of plane, but there are some changes in the situations and the conditions. When do this plane violate the Turkish airspace? Right next to us, we have the Turkmen mountain. Russia is bombing these places, and when they are carrying out these bombings, they violate our airspace. So I can say that Russia is bombing our allies in Syria, and they're violating our airspace. So this is a double attack for Turkey. And together with the violation, we also need to think about the nature of the bombings which caused the violation of airspace for the Russian planes. So together with the airspace violation, Turkey is trying to give another message about the place, about the locations of the Russia bombings. These are all important for us strategically, and you know that this is a very sensitive issue for us. These Turkmen people are really sensitive for us, really important for us. This is not really complex for us, but for the Russia side, there is a deeper approach, because there is a background for this. They are making it a bigger issue. We can understand the situation by looking at the points bombed by Russia in Syria. I would like to congratulate all the Russian pilots who bombed Daesh, but there is a problem here. They're not bombing them. They're not doing anything to them. Let's look at the places, let's look at the locations. They're bombed. 95% of this is the places where the Syrian opposition is resident. And they are bombing moderate opposition groups, opposing groups. Before Russian intervention started, the most important discussion topic was the Demostra plan. And the Syria opposition did not want something like this, because I think that they were right. But then there was a VN meeting organized, and in this VN meeting, they tried to make a definition about who are the opposition and who are the terrorists in Syria. There's a table, there's Assad regime and actors supporting the Assad regime, and the same actors, like Russia, are also trying to define or choose the other people who will be sitting across on this table. I would like to say that when we're talking about Demostra, we need to think about Russia. Demostra plan is a Russian plan. Maybe you remember that United Nations has a special representative, and he was saying that I was working for the United Arabic Emirates, and he started working in the United Arabic Emirates. The same thing applies for the Demostra. Demostra is working for Russia, and the plans prepared by him is actually Russian plans. We can say that. At the moment, Russia intervened in Syria. There was a situation with they were not able to have these strategic achievements they expected to. The opposing groups did not recede, and in southern Halep, the opposing groups had some successful gainings too. But there is a report, and it says that they killed more than 500 civilians, and 250 of them are women and children. It is stated in a report. Despite all these massacres, all these problems, all these casualties, we cannot say that Russia understood the situation. Iran and Assad regime is given support by Russia, and with these operations, the maximum achievement for Russia would be to persuade the Syrian opposition for this Demostra plan. I think the efforts are generally focusing on that. Turkey is a target right now. We are just a part of the discussion. I'm trying to say that there are groups rejecting these plans. There are some decisions taken in Vienna, and there is Demostra, and the people are saying that these will not be functioning, and the solution plans will not be sustainable plans, and all these groups are generally close to Turkey. I'm not just talking about Turkey, they are close to different countries too, but Turkey thinks that Russia thinks that Turkey is the most important actor which should be persuaded. They are trying to put Turkey in a problematic situation. They are using the propaganda device. So it is just turned into a parody when we look at the last week, and when we look at all the explanations from Russia. It is like a comedy show. Maybe in Russia, even in Russia, people think like this. We know that we see that international society is not attaching importance, but there is still such a situation which is ongoing. The opposition groups which are supported by Turkey should be persuaded to demonstrate a plan. This is the background for this problem, I think. The safe zones studies is not wanted by by Russia. These are the two topics. One of them is the plan, and one of them is the safe zone issue. Turkey is trying to get under pressure. This is not a coincidence. After the downing of this plane, Russia had some attacks to this safe zone area, and this region, there are some PKK groups in this region which are resident in the left, eastern or western parts of this region, and they attacked this safe zone. So this is not a coincidence. On the mind of Russia, one of the ways to create problems for Turkey is to support PKK. Some people call this YPG, but this is one of the mechanisms that is used by Russia. So when we think about all these things, we need to ask the question, will this tension be over? Under normal conditions, and if we exclude the Syrian dynamic from these discussions, we can think that this crisis will be over. But there is a deeper dimension of this discussion between Turkey and Russia, and about Syria we are totally on different pages. As Turkey and as Russia, we have different solution suggestions, we have different groups we support. So the Syria dreams are different for Turkey and Russia. So when we include all these dynamics into this problem, into this tension, we can say that this will continue. In some points it will be decreased, the tension will be decreased, in some points it will be increased, but I was checking Twitter because Putin was giving a live speech, making a live speech, and he used similar explanations. He used Islamic terminology, for example, and he said that Turkey is being punished by God. This is the continuation of this comedy show, actually. Putin is in the power, has the ruling because of his power, and he does not want to look weak. Then this is the propaganda part of this. But Russia, for Russia, Syria is a really important topic, even though it is not as important as Ukraine. And they would like to be the most important decision maker in the Middle East. And one of the most important barriers for these further steps, Turkey is a problem for them, and they think Turkey and the groups supported by Turkey in Syria are the important problem and barrier for them. I think this is why they are so aggressive. I would like to thank all the speakers. Now we can continue with the question and answer session. If you have any questions, please introduce yourselves and please tell to whom you are asking this question. We can start from the back. Thank you. Professor Mehmet Ayrı Kırbaşoğlu, Ankara Theology faculty. I'm also working on Middle East, in Syria and Middle East issues. I would like to say that I have different opinions by the rulings, by the rulers of this country, especially in their operations or policies regarding the Middle East. We are talking about the Turkey-Russia tension, but there is also something else we need to think about. We need to talk about. We were talking about the oil wars, water wars, food wars. An economic factor is really important. And behind the curtains of this war, there is also an issue related to the natural gas pipelines. Don't you think this is also effective? in this situation. There was a question from one of the speakers. He said that Russia does not shut or hit the Daesh. I'm not asking questions, I'm just making comments actually. The natural gas, don't you think the natural gas is also a factor? Because there is an arm wrestling because of these pipelines. We have these kind of comments. We need to understand that they're not bombing Daesh. I was shocked that you don't understand why. Because, as mentioned by the speakers, Putin is just trying to secure the Assad and the groups around Assad. Daesh existence is making everything easier for Russia. Russia is not going towards eastern regions, but this does not mean they will leave the eastern part alone. I would like to ask another question to Mr. Khalid. These are all open intelligence. They all say that, people say that there are about 40 different groups, opposing groups. And among them, mostly we are focusing on Daesh. And in Syrian local groups, radicalism is really strong and getting stronger. And people say that this will be the most important problem in the future. Among these opposing groups, there are some. The, the, the number of those who are supporting democracy is almost none. There are no supporters of democracy. Maybe we can collect the questions and then answer and then finish. Thank you, Yunus Emre Yıldız, Yıldırım Beyazıt University. I'm a master student. We know that Russia is using PYD. Actually, there's a reason for Russia to do this. I think they are trying to bring together those who are very sensitive towards Turkmen and who are supporting PYD. So what will be the reflections of this problem in Turkey? I think there is just one more question or two more questions and then we will finish. Mustafa Dikman, doctorate student. My question is to Mr. Şener and Mr. Halit. We are talking about some formal discourses or speeches. We know that as long as the United States is not on the stage, the problem will not be solved. People talk like this. There will be elections in the United States, and Obama administration is not taking any responsibility about this issue. The downing of a plane, Russian plane by Turkey, is problematic, but the regional policy of Turkey will affect Turkish-Russian relations. Do you think this will have very negative results, since we will not have any intervention from US? I would like to ask my question to Mr. Ufuk, and all the other speakers can also answer this. If we have such a crisis again, I think that this is not just something related to the downing of a plane. I believe that this is a provocation from Russia. This is already prepared by Russia. Turkey was provoked to down the plane. I think this is the case. This is what I believe. And the escalation process is really important, actually. This is something discussed among the politicians, I think. If Russia has another violation and if Turkey have to do this again, what will happen? Or if there will be a violation, will Turkey be able to down the play again? Let's say that there is another violation of the Russian plane, but it is not downed. What happened? Turkey is taking a step back. Russia is maybe testing Turkey and Western countries and NATO. What would be the results of this? My name is Sami Eker, by the way. Hello, my name is Ömer Emre Akkaya, Yıldırım Beyazıt University, International Relations student. I would like to ask this question to Ufuk, Mr. Ufuk. We are talking about the safe zone project all the time, and what is the approach of Western countries since there is such an intervention by Russia? Do you think they are more likely to accept something like this? There's PKK in the field, and both Russia and the United States is supporting PKK. This is really interesting. I don't think this is something seen in the history because they're supporting the same organization, terrorist organization. What will happen in the end? I'm wondering what will happen. Let's hear the final question. Thank you very much for your presentation. Ali Gürbüz, I'm a lawyer. Shanghai 5, the position of the Shanghai 5 in this process is my question. What will be the position of Shanghai 5 during this crisis between Turkey and Russia? Thank you very much. Let's start with the same way. Thank you very much for your questions. I listed 4 questions, but many of these questions include different questions in them, but I will try to answer these questions in the best way possible and fastest way possible. Economic factors and natural gas factors is questioned by one of our participants. International economy and politics is not an area of expertise for me. But of course you're right, this is a really important issue. Natural gas supplier is Russia, main natural gas supplier is Russia, and they are also a transit country for the other Caucasian natural gas to find their way into the lands of Europe. And similarly, Turkmen natural gas, Kazakh oil and natural gas are using Russia route to get to the European market, get into the European market. Of course, we can understand that Russian Federation has a certain economic structure, and they are not in a nice situation. They just have 2 things, natural gas and oil. In Nigeria, they have difference from Nigeria and other countries. Algeria, they're able to sell weapons too. But there is no other element which brings currency, foreign currency, to Russia, and this is actually why the economy is quite volatile in Russia. I already said that I don't know about this issue, but there were some problems about Iraq and the Georgia war and Ukraine war. These are directly affecting the economy, but I don't think that they are the primary reasons of the economy. the United States economy was about to go bankrupt during the Iraqi attacks, and they spent $100 billion, and maybe this was because of the 2008 crisis, economic crisis. And from Iraq and Afghanistan, I don't think that these resources from Iraq or Afghanistan can be the reason of these wars. In Syria, we don't know that whether there is such a natural resource or not. But in media, we heard about the fact that Qatar natural gas will take the road from Syria through Syria. The other resources can also take the road from Syria. If this is really an economic fight, even we cannot understand this because we spend $8 billion for the migrants. So it is obvious that I don't know anything about the economy right now, but I'm not sure that this is because of having a possibility to put hands on the natural resources. And of course, Obama is acting hesitant and isolating the United States. This was a very long answer. I will try to answer the others in a shorter way. Yunus Emre Yıldız from Yıldırım Beyazıt University. PYD. Can PYD is being used to create crisis in the internal policy of Turkey? Of course, they are doing that. This is not just something about Turkish policy. All public, we are interested in this. There are some books published about this, there are some articles written about this. I cannot give the information about them, but from Marine Le Pen and Pegida movement, most of these Islamic or provocative groups, we see this, we always see this. Maybe I think you know about Pegida. This is a movement against Islam, and they always use some notices, help us Vladimir, help us Putin. They have such a connection. The PYD question is actually the same in Europe too. It doesn't matter whether it is a German or Turkish internal policy, Russia is using this all the time. Final question that I will answer. Yes, United States is not able to intervene, and I believe that they will not be able to do this. But when we look at United States grand strategy, they always told us we don't care about Georgia, Ukraine, and Syria. These are not threatening the core structure of United States. The civil war can continue for 10 or 20 years. This doesn't affect us directly. It does not affecting the core national interests of the United States. Obama has completed his administration and ruling. I don't think there will be something like this. Iran reconciliation is also locked. Obama administration had some signature successes. We would like to have a certain legacy. The gay marriage and health, Obamacare is listed in the books. About external policy, the reconciliation with Cuba and Iran. If there is a direct intervention to Syria, the Iran reconciliation will be badly affected. So this may continue for 30-40 years. The neocons want this. It is also written.
konservatif açıdan savaşın kazananı
For neoconservatives,
diyen de bir ekol var. Bunun dominant olduğunu
we
zannetmiyorum.
think that this is what they want. Obama is not neocon.
Yönetimi de neokon çizgide gitmiyor.
Obama administration is not neocon. I think it is over. Thank you.
Şimdi bu doğalgazla ilgili
About the natural gas,
jeopolitik olmasına rağmen
even though it is a geopolitical issue,
sorun aslında Rusya'ya alternatif doğalgaz hattının özellikle hesaplamalarında
we are talking about Qatar as an alternative natural gas pipeline. Saudi Arabia, Jordan, Syria, Turkey, and Europe road is being discussed.
şey olarak karasal olarak yok. Çünkü Katar
When we think about the territories,
deniz kıyısı
we can see that Qatar has the largest
Katar doğalgazı
cruises,
sıvılaştırıyor.
ships. They are liquidizing the natural gas. They're using these ships, and their number is about 52. They're really large. It is quite safe. Actually, this is an important threat for Russia. This will affect the European countries too. This is a threat from Russia. This is how they create a threat. This is not a reason to have a direct intervention for Russia.
Bundan ayrı olarak Suudi Arabistan
Apart from this, Saudi Arabia
daha çok pazarları daha çok battırarak, daha çok petrol ihraç ederek
is trying to causing problems for Russia too, because
sırf bu yüzden müdahil olması ve
I don't think that Russia intervened into this Syria issue just because of this. It is backfiring on Russia because the natural gas issue and oil issue, they provided some guarantees if they stop supporting Assad, and there was the issue about purchasing a large amount of weapons from Russia, and Putin refused this. Saudi Arabia did the exact reverse thing, contrary thing. You know, the oil prices is below $40, and Russia cannot meet this cost. So as long as Russia is Syria, their economy will be collapsed. And this energy war will get worse and worse. About the armed forces and armed groups in Syria, I can say that they have state representatives, political representatives, and democracy and personal freedom rights are important, and they have signed in the coalition. But in the field, this is not the case. Everyone is seeing barrel bombs in the field, and you cannot ask about them, ask about their opinion on democracy. I believe that they will not give an answer which is positive, because they are trying to survive there. This is the fight for survival. This is normal. The answer is normal. But all these groups have their political offices, apart from Syria and in the body of the coalition. And the safe zone, on the safe zone issue and the downing. Before talking about safe zone, I totally agree with you with the fact that ISIS, there was a question about ISIS. ISIS and the regime are like each other. Everyone knows about it. Russia knows that, regime knows that, the Western coalition also know this. if the ISIS is collapsed, the regime will also collapse. This equation is a very well-known one. For this reason,
kalması istendiği sürece
as long as we want a regime to survive, they want the regime to survive, ISIS will survive. This is a well-known equation. About safe zone issues, there is also the threat from ISIS. Turkey is supporting the safe zone, and this is the region where ISIS is located, and we need to uproot them, uproot ISIS from there. We will put other forces like Free Syrian forces, and the regime will have a very serious impact. So Turkey wants this, Turkey repeats that, but the Western countries does not receive this in a positive way. They delay that all the time. And Turkey's will was quite open. Turkey is always saying that the safe zone, with or without the United States, will be created. There is an increased support from European countries, from France, for example, and the United States is also saying that in one way or another, in some way, we can also support you. Thank you. Thank you very much for your questions. But the Daesh question was a rhetoric question. I know why they are not bombing Daesh. This was an ironic sentence. There's a symbiotic relation between Daesh and regime, and everyone is aware of this fact. If we are looking closely at Syria. So this is actually a problem because of this symbiotic relation. They're not fighting against Daesh, and the groups which are fighting against Daesh are the Syrian opposing groups, and Turkey is supporting them from the start, since the beginning. About the downing of the plane again, there are some aspects. If there is another violation and we down a Russian plane, this is another case. Or Russia can use the defense system and down a Turkish plane. We need to think in two different ways, because the actor across us, I mean Russia, killed 200 or 300 hostages which are held by 10 or 20 Chechens. And in order to kill these 10 people, they killed this 300 or 200 hostages. So we need to think about this. They can be using this propaganda device again. And the most important factor here is NATO. Interestingly, NATO is in the equation, and I was really surprised because they are sending us ships and they are providing support, they're uttering supportive sentences and messages. The intervention from Turkey is very well received. In Paris conference, you saw some of the Baltic countries, for example, and Holland and Netherlands, were quite satisfied, and they transferred this information to Erdogan. NATO is in this equation right now, and maybe this can make Russia think about it. Of course, this doesn't mean we will never experience something like this. We can have some experiences like this, and the violations there will continue because the bombardment is going on, and the points are really close to Turkish territory. And Turkey and Russia cannot take a step back. Both countries are quite clear. Turkey says that if there is a violation, I will down your plane again. And Russia said that the price for this will be really costly for you. maybe by taking this opportunity, Russia
hava harekatlarının etkinliğini arttıracak yeni bir sistem daha bölgeyle tanıştırdı.
I would like to talk about a new system introduced by Russia. This is a new system by innovative system, and this is a limitation for the NATO forces and the Turkish forces in the region. Actually, as I mentioned before, this is not just something between Turkey and Russia. Now NATO has stepped in, and this will turn into a NATO and Russia issue because there is this air defense system, innovative system.
Batı ve güvenli bölge meselesinde ben Halil Bey'den biraz farklı düşünüyorum.
About safe zone, I'm thinking in a different way. After the downing of the plane, there have been some discussions, and Western countries does not have an increased support for the safe zone, in my opinion. I believe that there are already some hesitations on the minds of the Western countries, and this strengthened these hesitations. The safe zone issue, about the safe zone issue, Turkey and the United States had never been on the same page. We are thinking in a very different way, and we have very different agendas. And even though they made some explanations about this, I don't believe that there will be a real safe zone on this line and provide a safety for these people in this region.
O bölgede IŞİD'e yönelik yapılacak operasyonlarda Türkiye ile birlikte koordinasyon içerisinde
They said that they will be in coordination with Turkey if there's an operation, but safe zone word or terminology was never used.
Rusya'nın özellikle hava
And the current status
aktivitesini arttırdığını görüyorum.
is a status in which Russia is increasing its aerial activities. And I think this hesitance will continue on the minds of the Western countries. So downing of the Russian plane is also this downing of the discussions regarding the safe zone.
Tabii bu havadan bahsettik. Diğer taraftan PKK'nın da
Of course, we are talking about airspace, but there is the land space too, and PKK is another complication, and we should come face to face with this. Turkey and the actors supported by Turkey. Russia and the United States has different approaches. PKK or
bu konuda aynı fikirde olması
other forces. You said that they have the same opinion, but this is not surprising for those who are monitoring the situation in Syria. United States is generally delegating all the issues, most of the issues in Syria to Russia. Actually, they have common grounds more than you think in regards to the Syria issue. So they are focusing on PKK, that they are both supporting PKK. They think that it is an alliance, a legitimate ally for them to work or to fight together. There's something interesting there. The PKK is working together with United States and Russia. This is the level of pragmatism in PKK. So this is interesting, actually. They are supporting Putin, and then in a few days later they were saying long live Obama. And then the Syria situation surfaced, and they started to say that we are open for the relations with Russia. So this is a great example for pragmatism, and this shows us the pragmatic grounds for PKK. And we now understand that they can work together with anyone if they want to have an achievement. Shanghai 5, and this is something not related to Turkey and Russia, as I mentioned before. The international society is all affected by this issue, and the international society has a much more sensible approach, reasonable approach to this issue.
Responsible adults Türkiye.
But the responsible adult here is Turkey. Interestingly, I believe Turkey's best crisis management experience since the foundation of Turkish Republic. We are cool. Interestingly, we are quite calm. We have a constructing approach. We are calm. We are not using high-pitched voices, and we always say that we are just using our right to protect our country. And on the other hand, there is another party, Russia, who is not thinking about what they are talking. We are talking without thinking, and when we look at the crisis management, we can say that Turkey is a very successful example. Russia and this psychology and international society, this also means Shanghai 5 too. The Syria issue should be solved in a just way, in a fair way. All the actors of the international society will be affected by this, and this mine atmosphere will continue in the near future about the Russia situation. We will wrap up the meeting, and if you have one last word you can say about Shanghai 5. I would like to say something. Turkey's geopolitical identity is really important. For 11 years I'm focusing on this Eurasia issue, Eurasianism, and this Turkish-Russian alliance possibility is on the increase in the policy. Starting from 2002, we had a direct alliance, but then this expanded in the later years. I said that Russianism was discussed all the time, and with this crisis, this Russianism policy is put on a shelf during its maturity period. There are some real political reasons. The technology transfer, there was not a technology transfer from Western countries, the nuclear issues, etc., etc. And of course, there had been some developments in the previous years. The fault lines, geopolitical fault lines, should be taken into account, but there are some reasons which are not because of Turkey, and this approach will be different. Finally, I would like to say about Ukraine, because this is about Syria crisis, and I don't know very well about Syria, but Ukraine I know. We talked about the psychology and the balance of Russia and Putin, and this loss of balance is about actually Ukraine. This started with the Ukraine crisis. Russia lost this balances because of this. And we should go back to February 2014, Kiev, Ukraine, these were all affected. These are not just about the Orthodox identity or religion. Ukraine was really meaningful for Russia, and he got mad, of course. Let's say that he got angry, and he took some illegitimate steps like civil war and occupation, but this was not enough for him too, and even the reaction of Syria is the reaction related to Ukraine. they are paying the price of the Russian crisis in Ukraine, actually. Thank you very much, first of all, for your participation, and I would like to thank the panelists for their speeches. I hope that we will meet in another panel. We will have a cocktail right outside. Thank you.